Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome to The Last Lap, and in today's video going to be breaking down everything we saw from Gateway from the NASCAR Cup Series. But before we hop into the video, just want to remind you guys to hit that like button and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it, and you can also check out our social media pages, which are linked down in the description. Let's go ahead and hop into the video. Matthew, my friend and co-host, is joining me as always, and man, this had to have been some kind of week for you. Start off the week by having a basically free roast session of me for what Chase Elliott did earlier in the week. And now today, Kyle Busch wins, so I'm sure you are on quite the momentum, high momentum, whatever you call it. But anyways, Matthew, how you feeling before we go ahead and hop into this video?
Man, there's just something I need to get off my chest right here. I need to say, how about that Rowdy Nation? Woo! Man, that was the most dominant performance I've seen out of him in a long time. And you know how long it has been since we've had a pretty dominant race. Woo, man, those last 50 laps, I think I aged like 5 years. It was stressing, stressful. Of all the brake failures, all the people making dumb moves, I was just waiting for Kyle to get screwed somehow. But thankfully, well, perfect weekend basically, almost a perfect weekend. So let's get right into it, and I won't hold you up too, Paul.
No, I don't think you need to be holding me up any. I think it's the opposite way around. I think I need to get through this as fast as I can so I can let
Oh, by the
you.
way, I hope you had a great time in Cancun this weekend. I hope you had a great time, and well, well, you got your vacation in now. We'll see you at Sonoma next weekend.
I was gonna say something. I was gonna bring it up, but I didn't. But you brought it up, so I appreciate you asking. I was on the plane, watching the race, and just got home. All that kind of stuff not that long ago. This is all photoshopped in the background. This isn't real. I'm still in Cancun. No, I'm kidding. I wish I had the video editing capability to do all that, but no. Um, but I appreciate the generosity, and all that stuff. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about how your driver got it done today. So the race actually started, and then 5 laps in, there was rain. It led to a hour and 45-minute delay of the race. But after that, they were able to get the race going once again, and it wasn't a rain delay. Sorry, it was a lightning delay. So if you guys don't know, if there's a lightning strike, NASCAR has to hold the race for 30 minutes. So that happened a few times. Every time lightning struck within a certain radius, they had to reset the 30-minute clock. So that happened quite a few times. But after that, they were able to get the race underway without any more interruptions. But this was pretty much the Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney show. The two of them were at the front of the field pretty much all day long. Early in the race, Brad Keselowski had some type of engine trouble, which was unfortunate for him. I think he still might have finished on the lead lap, or maybe one lap down with all the wreckage at the end. He got his laps back, but just couldn't keep up with the pace of everybody else for the rest of the day. Another driver that was having a good run was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He got taken out late in the race after Austin Cindric. He came down and hooked Austin Dillon, and then Austin Dillon came up into Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Tough break for him. He was running up inside the top 10 for most of the day. Was probably going to get a top 10 finish, but just taken out late in the race. Brake rotor issues. That was a big thing today. Several drivers were having trouble, and it was going into turn one specifically where the brake rotors were blowing. So Carson Hocevar had that issue filling in for Quay LaJoy, who was filling in for Chase Elliott. Tyler Reddick had that same issue. Noah Gragson had the issue, and late in the race, Bubba Wallace also had a brake rotor issue. Apparently, what I was hearing is that the brake rotors would cool off down the straightaways because they were such long straightaways, and then they would heat up and get really hot going into the corners, specifically turn one, because I think you have to use the brakes a little bit more going into turn number one. But yeah, those four drivers had brake rotor issues. Tough break for all those guys. I'll talk a little bit more about Carson Hocevar in a minute. But late in the race, there were a lot of varying pit strategies. So I think it was around, I don't know, 50 to go, 40 to go, something like that. Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney, they took 4 tires. And then drivers like Kyle Larson and Michael McDowell, they took 2 tires. So they had a little bit more track position. And then there was a caution, I don't remember how many laps to go, 20 to go, 30 to go, something like that. Martin Truex Jr., he came down pit road and took 4 tires. So, and then Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Michael McDowell, they all stayed out for the rest of the race. So Martin Truex Jr. had a little bit fresher tires, and then Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, they had 4 tires, and then Kyle Larson had 2 tires. So a little bit of mixing strategies there at the end of the race. Kyle Busch was able to get back to the lead pretty quick, and from there it was just about holding off everybody else. A bunch of late race restarts. Kyle Busch was in control for most of them. It was mostly him and Kyle Larson on the front row, and then Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney, they flip-flopped on the second row, inside or outside every time. But Kyle Busch was able to hold him off in overtime. He was able to get the win. Not really any issues. Kyle Busch is known to be one of the best doing restarts, and he showed that all throughout the race, and specifically at the end of the race in those last 50 laps or so. So congratulations to Kyle Busch. I'll go over the top 10 real quick, and then I'll go into a few more of my post-race thoughts. So Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, the top 2, Joey Logano 3rd, Kyle Larson 4th, Martin Truex Jr. 5th after that strategy to get 4 tires. Ryan Blaney 6th, Daniel Suarez 7th. He was up in the top 10 all day long. Great run for him. William Byron 8th, Michael McDowell 9th, and Kevin Harvick rounds out the top 10. And I was going to say something about somebody real quick, but I forgot. Oh, yeah, Kyle Larson. So Kyle Larson finished 4th, and he had like a 30th place car in the first stage. And by the time the end of the second stage came around, he was in the top 10. So that just proves how good Kyle Larson as a driver is and how good his crew is. Specifically, Cliff Daniels on top of that pit box. We all know how inspirational and motivational he is. So it was crazy to see that he was able to get up into the top 10 and then contend for the win at the end of this race after being outside the top 30 in the opening stage. But back to Kyle Busch. It's his 3rd win of the season, ties him with William Byron for the most wins right now so far this season. And it's a little bit surprising that Kyle Busch had a lot of speed because RCR hasn't been the best on the smaller tracks, but this is kind of a weird track. It's not a short track, but it isn't an intermediate. It's kind of like a Darlington, I guess you could say. It's like 1.33 miles or something like that. So not really a short track, not really an intermediate, but it's just a little bit surprising that Kyle Busch had the speed that he did. But man, from practice, qualifying, the race, it easily seemed like Kyle Busch had the best car today. And Matthew, you said that it's been a while since you've seen Kyle Busch dominate a race like this. Think back to Fontana, just to his first win of the season. Like, he pretty much dominated that race, too. I don't know if you're referring
Well,
to
what I meant
just...
was, like, Kyle Busch literally was one on the pole and basically led almost, like, pretty much almost all the laps and then won. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that's fair, but I mean, at Auto Club, he had the best car, and he led a decent amount of laps. But anyways, but yeah, that's the second time he's done that this season, where he's been out front for a decent amount of the race, and ended up winning. And then Talladega is obviously Talladega, that happened. But yeah, 3rd win of the season for Kyle Busch. And gosh, I don't even remember what you predicted, Matthew. I think you predicted he'd get like 4 or 5 wins, and he's already at 3, and it's like 14 or 15 races through the season. So I have to look out for Kyle Busch throughout the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs. He might hit that 4 or 5 win mark by the time the end of the season comes around. Definitely looking good. Track position was obviously important in this race, but I feel like the racing was good at the same time. Like, if you were in the back, you could make your way through to the front. It just seems like once you get to around like 15th or so, it gets really hard to pass because everybody's kind of equal. Like Tyler Reddick, he was in the back of the race, back of the field early, and he made his way up to, I think he got up to like the top 10 at one point. So yeah, track position was important, but the racing was good. Strategy was also a little bit important as well. And Corey LaJoie, he filled in for Chase Elliott. Kind of a disappointing opportunity or result for his opportunity. He did finish 21st, but like William Byron and Kyle Larson, they made their way up into the top five. Corey LaJoie was just kind of in the mid 20s, maybe even I think he was in the almost in the 30s at one point in this race. So just a disappointing effort from him. I kind of called it yesterday. You and I were talking, and I was like, I really just don't have a good feeling about what Corey LaJoie is going to do today. And sure enough, just a disappointing result. The sad thing is that Carson Hocevar in the 7 car was outrunning him during this race. At one point, Carson Hocevar was up to like 15th in the number 7 car today, before unfortunately having that brake rotor issue. And as much as Carson Hocevar is a jerk in the truck series, I think he's really, I guess, matured in a way, kind of, at least when it's come to the Xfinity series when he's gotten a few starts, and then the Cup series today when he got his first start. I don't really know how to explain it, but he's made really good opportunities in the Xfinity series for the car he's in, and then today he made a good opportunity of it, showed he has a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and he doesn't have a ride next year for any series. So, as much of a jerk he's been in the truck series, I do hope he gets some kind of opportunity maybe in Xfinity next year to really showcase his talent even more. So hopefully he'll get a full-time ride there next year. But yeah, I really think that's all I have to say about the race. It was solid. Matthew, go ahead and tell everybody what you thought about everything that you saw today from Gateway.
All right, so what a weekend that we had this weekend. First of all, I want to say what an amazing race that was yesterday at Portland with the Xfinity Series. Amazing, amazing racing, especially the ending of stage two and also the last restart. Um, Portland is such an interesting road course. I think it'd be cool if the Cup Series tried that at least one time. I mean, that's a market that the Cup Series hasn't touched at all, the Northwestern market. And I feel like that actually makes sense. So I think NASCAR should try bringing the Cup Series to Portland at least once. I'm not saying make it permanent, just do it one time. Just to say you went to the Northwest market. But anyways, on to today. Man, first and foremost, Kyle Busch, his third win of the season. Um, Man, I thought my 4 or 5 wins was gonna be a stretch there when I first thought about it, but well, it's actually isn't now. Already 3 wins, and he was able to win at a shorter type of track, not an intermediate nor short track, but a shorter track, which RCR this year has been known to struggle at, and that's the one thing that's keeping Kyle Busch from being a legit championship contender, in my opinion, is those short tracks. They still need to figure that package out. It seemed like they figured out Coda when they ran that package on the road course, and he finished second, so that's hopeful coming into next weekend. But man, Phoenix, Richmond, Bristol, well, that was dirt. We'll see how the concrete goes. Martinsville, hey, he was bad. He, I, RCR as a whole on those short track packages is bad. I don't think they ran this weekend. They ran what they had at Darlington, that other package, and it seemed like Kyle was able to run well in Darlington and here. So, I mean, that's promising going to Darlington the playoffs, but that's the only thing that still makes me a little bit hesitant about putting him as the championship favorite. It's just those short tracks. That's still the one thing that they need to fix. If they actually do find a way to fix those, then yes, he is a championship favorite. So, but man, amazing! What an amazing race it was for him. On the pole, led the most laps, survived all the chaos. I aged like 5 years those last 50 laps because I literally thought that one of these restarts, someone was going to do something stupid and take Kyle out. And because I've seen too many of these late race restarts to know that that could happen. But thankfully, a lot of respect given to all the guys that was around him, like Larson, Hamlin, Blaney. They all raced clean. which I have a lot of respect for. If it was like Ross Chastain, then that would be a whole different story. But yeah, a lot of respect given, and thankfully, no nothing bad happened in those late race restarts. Now, the big story I think is going to be coming out this weekend is the brakes, all the brake failures that we had for today. And this reminded me of when I was at Nashville Super Speedway for the inaugural Cup race in 2021. I was there for that. There were a lot of brake failures that whole race, and that totally reminded me what happened today. There was a lot of brake failures. Now Nashville and Gateway have a little bit of similarity with it has these long straightaways, but the turns are almost you have to brake so hard like a short track almost. So that probably puts a lot of strain on those brakes being cold and then very hot, then cold, very hot. So they're probably going to figure out some of the brake package on the tracks like Gateway and Nashville Super Speedway where you don't want to see too many of these brake failures. But and another thing, man, Cole Joy really disappointed me in my opinion. I mean, I know qualifying he did hit the wall. I was like, but maybe he'll climb back up. No, I forgot he was in the race the whole time. Where was he? I mean, he's in a Hendrick Motorsports car. I thought the way he's run with Spire, I thought this was his best chance here, but he really did disappoint me, and that's a shame because I know he seems like a very underrated driver. It's just when you put him in a good car, I guess it didn't translate. Meanwhile, Carson Hocevar, on the other hand, absolutely impressed me today. Unfortunately, the results are not going to show, but that was not his fault. He was literally in the top 15 in a Spire Motorsports car. I mean, wow. That is just absolutely impressive by Carson Hocevar. I think he has a bright future one day. I don't think he's a jerk like you were saying. I just think he's just a Ross Chastain clone where he just makes a bunch of dumb mistakes or dumb decisions, like spinning out on purpose to bring out caution. But if he, I mean, when I've seen the Xfinity Cup, I feel like he's a totally different driver where he does race pretty clean, very well, and he showed that today. So I think he has a bright future one day. Hopefully, he gets an Xfinity ride next year. I mean, Spire Motorsports, bring a full time Xfinity ride. I mean, you've been doing well with him. Might as well keep the same formula going. But but yeah, that great debut for Hocevar, even though the finish didn't go his way, but it is what it is. But overall, I thought this was a pretty good race. I'll say how it was with Darlington. I thought it was a pretty good race. Wasn't spectacular, but I thought you can pass there, just like how it was at Darlington. Multiple lanes, you can pass on the bottom, pass on the top, and I thought it was just a pretty good race. So yeah, what a great, almost perfect weekend for me. And I cannot wait to get that Wii car diecast on the shelf in a few months. You know, I've been waiting for that Wii card race version.
You had to throw that plug in there like Kyle Busch did in his interview with Cheddars.
Yeah, the $8 chicken tender special, baby.
That was pretty funny. I like to see Kyle's personality kind of change a little bit since he came to RCR in a good way, not in a bad way. Like he seems to have a little bit more, I guess, having a little more fun. I guess a little more personality. I don't know. Like I guess it was just a refresh for him, moving to a new car, new team, new manufacturer, all that kind of stuff. And now he's kind of transitioning into the good guy role. And he back at Joe Gibbs Racing, he really kind of
Yeah, you
embraced.
heard all those cheers. I know you heard all those cheers when he climbed out of that car today. I know you heard all them cheers. There's no such thing as him being a polarizing driver anymore. You heard all those cheers.
Yeah, so it's good to see that he's kind of transitioned out of that bad guy role. I feel like when he was at Joe Gibbs Racing, he kind of had to embrace the bad guy role, but now that he's with a new team, he can kind of just get a refresh, be a good guy now, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited for him, excited for his future, and especially the rest of the season because 3 wins already through not even halfway through the season. So very excited about all of that. Let's quickly rate this race before we get on out of here. I think I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Kind of like you said, if a 10 is perfect, a 5 is average, is kind of between an average and a perfect race. So 7.5 for me, short, sweet, and simple. Matthew, what are you gonna rate this race?
I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. I thought this was a pretty good race. Feel like you can pass with multiple lanes. Of course, it wasn't perfect. There were still times where it's just still hard to pass, but yeah, I thought it was still a pretty good race, and yeah, 8 out of 10.
All right, and as for our fantasy update today, you absolutely waxed me. You beat me by 42 points. You had 254. I had 212. Sorry we haven't given you guys an update on our fantasy in a while because we haven't done like a race review and a race preview in the same week in quite a while. So now we're finally able to update you guys on our fantasy points. But as for our point total, you are 187 points ahead of me. So yeah, this season has just not been good for me for fantasy. You have 2,558. I have 2,371. So I am quite the ways behind you. Obviously, still a long season to go, but I think you got a pretty commanding lead here. So Matthew, what are your closing thoughts before we go ahead and finish this video up?
Well, well, I think I said all I could say from this amazing weekend. Sonoma is coming weekend. That's the last race for Fox for this season, which I'm so happy about. I heard that there was a internet problem at Gateway because I noticed the Fox broadcast had it's like paused, but it wasn't just Fox. There was MRN at the track having problems, and then there was the teams. They couldn't get the SMT data or go to the headquarters in North Carolina with all their teams with the data and stuff like that. So that's a first. I think that's a first for NASCAR. The Wi-Fi went out.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. At first, everybody was thinking that it was a Fox problem, but it turned out to be a problem at the track. And I don't even think it was like specifically Gateway's problem. I think they said something with AT&T, something was wrong with them or whatever. But yeah, that was definitely weird.
Should have
But
tried
yeah,
T-Mobile, man. It sets up so fast. Go on, sing it.
no, no. If you guys, I wish you guys were involved in our messages back
Hey,
and forth.
neighbor.
I wish you guys were involved in our messages back and forth because every time that commercial comes on, Matthew just has to let me know about it, and it's
Hey,
that's my
that commercial drives him nuts, which is funny.
that commercial is something else. But yeah, maybe they need to switch to them for the future. But yeah, Sonoma is next week. Road course racing. Hope fingers crossed we'll be able to get a preview video out for that in the next coming days. But thank you guys for watching this video. We appreciate it. But until the next time, we see you guys in the next one.